Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to the Modding of Isaac with Lyte. And today, we're going to make a pill that modifies your stats and then reverts back after you leave the room. Sounds nice, doesn't it? It builds off of a previous episode that we did. So if you didn't watch that god-awfully long episode on the drips, some of the code might be a little foreign to you, but we need that such that this episode doesn't take literally forever. And so, let's take a look at how it works. As always, lorem ipsum mod. And we're just going to start a run as Isaac. As always. And here we are in the cellar. We're going to give ourselves this pill. So you can hit G, and then P gives you the pills. And there are 46 of them in the game already. So yours will be 47. And so we have an unknown pill, and we use it, and we become big and green. Rawr. And we have lots of damage. Let's give ourselves another one. When we come in here, it's gone! And then we get it back, and we blow this guy up. And then we leave, and we're normal. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's switch back over to our desktop, and we'll get to work. Now this one does require the drips that we made last time. Well, maybe not last time, because last time was the music. The time before that. Because it has a lot of stuff already done, and it's got a lot of code that we can reuse. And reusing code is a good thing to do when you really have the opportunity and when it's thematically appropriate. So we're not going to start from scratch. Over here, we've got our resources again, and the one XML file we want to look at is pocketitems.xml. These are the various things that fit in your pocket. So cards, runes, and pills. You'll notice that they're pill effects and not pills because, well, pills, they change color on you all the time. But you look through, we got 46 of these things. No wonder you don't get all of them in every rotation. Also notice there's no indication of whether or not PhD should do anything in particular to them, which is part of why some of the newer bad pills don't get filtered out. So we're not going to be using this file per se. We're going to use it as a reference, but we're not going to use this file. But it is kind of handy to have, and it's nice to not have to type everything out, so we're actually going to cheat a little bit this time, and we're going into content again, because we're making it from scratch. No modification of the game itself, we're making a new one. What the heck, let's actually type it out. Text document, pocket items.xml. Make sure you spell pocket items correctly. Sometimes they don't. And then we'll open it on up. This one is very, very, very simple. You open a box with the right-facing gator, pocket items. And that's it. No fancy attributes, no graphical anythings. Nothing. Oops. There we go. So we got a box to put all of our pocket items in. So we're going to make a pill effect. What are we going to call our pill effect? Well, we give it a name. I'm always angry. And that's the secret to hulking out or not. And then we close this pill effect tag before it goes anywhere else. Always remember that with the slash, it closes the tag it's looking at. And we're done. That's the entirety of the XML. You don't need any more. No IDs, no anything. It's so very, very straightforward. Okay, so we're done with the XML. We're going to move into the Lua. So back in here, you go to the drips, main.lua, because there are no other resources either. The rest of it is just code. So here we are in our good old-fashioned drips mod. This has all of the things that we did, guess it's 2 episodes now, for the passive item drips. we're going to use a lot of this sorts of stuff, again, because this cache is exactly where you do all the stat modifications, and I'm always angry does make you stronger. So we're going to be using that. But first, we're going to start up here where we've got all of our various setup type information. So let's come down here and start a new area for the I'm always angry pill. So pill, I'm always angry. So what we need is a little data structure to hold all of our information in. So we make a local I'm always angry equals, and then put in the curly braces. So this is kind of like the enumerations we've done before. But we're going to expand it out, make it more object-oriented, so we can transition into actual object-oriented programming once that comes about and is necessary. Just get your feet wet a little with thinking about objects, their properties, and their methods. So, what do we need to know about our fancy pill? Well, we need to know how much damage it gives you, how high it pushes the tiers up, how big it makes you. There are all sorts of things that we need for it to know. And there are a couple of other things that could change, and yeah, there are tons of things that we need to know. So, step one, we need its identification number. I'm always angry. Oh wait, we don't put that in here because it's right here. So this is just what comes after the dot. I do those sorts of things such that you're like, wait, you don't have to put... Right. Gets you thinking. All we need here is the ID equals, and then what's the ID? Well, we ask Isaac to get the pill effect by name. This one doesn't have the ID. I don't know why, but there's no ID here. It's just get pill effect by name, and then you give it the name. I'm always angry. Okay, now, comma. Always remember your commas in these things. A lot of you have had some difficulties with the tables and the commas. Remember the commas. So that was the ID number. We can't get the color just yet, and the color part doesn't work. We're going to put it in for when it starts working, but right now, totally borked. But what else do we need to know? Well, we need the bonus damage. Now, this is a constant. Never going to change, like the ID number. Constant, never going to change. Totally capped. So our bonus damage, I'm going to set it at 7. That's a lot of damage. This is a super buffing pill. You don't have to have it that high. If you want it lower for balance purposes, you can kick it down to 5, 4, 3, whatever you think is appropriate. For this tutorial, we're doing 7. Next up, we need bonus tier height. Now this one, it's measured in pixels, so you need it, I think it's pixels. It might not be pixels, but it's measured in a larger scale. So this one I'm going to put at about 30. And then we need the bonus scale. So like the scale that you add to the player, how big they are. And that scale starts at 1, and when it gets to 2, you're twice the size. So what this is going to do is double the size of a normal player. If they're already a little big, it won't quite double them, but it'll make them big. Okay, so now we're going to add a line that we're not going to use in the rest of the program because it doesn't work right. But we're going to add it anyway, because in the future, it will. I can guarantee you they're going to fix this such that it actually works right. You hear me, Edmund? Tyrone? Make this work right. I'm always angry. Dot color equals Isaac. Now, granted, we need to do this regardless. Add pill effect to pool. Because we need to add the pill effect to the pool of pills. I'm always angry. .id. So we're saying take our pill and put it in the pool. We have to do this. But it's supposed to give back the color. It gives back the wrong number. Supposed to return pill color. Does it? It doesn't. I've tested it out. It knows which one is I'm always angry. It gives me the number 47 for the ID number. But then when I add it to the pool, it's supposed to give me the color. And it lies. I'm going to do some more investigating to see if it lies reliably, so we can just transform the number it gives us into the right number. I don't know what's going on. But we have successfully set up a couple of constants, we've made a little object here, and we've added our pill to the pool. So we should, at least in theory, be able to find it on the ground. Awesome. So we have a pill, it's going to be on the ground. What do we need to do next? Well, we probably need to make it such that it actually activates. And I'm pretty sure activation is a good place to go from here. So we're going to come down to the bottom. We're going to add some more functions and whatnot. So leave a little space, add a little thing. I'm always angry. Proc code. So function. And as always, we're going to connect this to our previous object. I'm always angry dot proc. I'm going to say proc here because it's when it happens. And if you had an active item that does this effect, you can use the same proc as you would with the pill. It doesn't matter how it necessarily procs, so long as you send it the same information. Now, when you when you use a pill, you're given two parameters, some sort of table, and then the pill effect number. I have not been able to determine what this table is because it's not the player, and the documentation says it's not even supposed to be there. Oh, it's probably I'm always angry. Yeah. So let's put in a colon, yes, because I used a dot in my previous testing, so it's probably I'm always angry that it's sending. Or the drips mod, one or the other. Either way, we're not going to be using it anyway. So, well, we need a callback. Whenever you set up this function, just stop. Don't put in the code yet. You're never going to be able to call this function if you don't have the callback. So, drips mod, add callback. And I bet you know what kind of callback we need by now. Mod callbacks. Make sure this is plural. A lot of you run into trouble because you say mod callback dot. It's add callback singular, mod callbacks plural. So MC use pill. Yeah. I'm always angry dot proc. Oops, we don't want this quote here. And then this time we're actually going to have a filter, because we don't want it to run this every time it sees a modded pill, just the one we want. And so we give it I'm always angry.id, such that whenever we take a pill, it only procs when we take the right one. So when it calls proc, what it gives you is the pill effect. I was a little mistaken in my previous testing, but it should be fine. Okay, so we've got our callback. It's drips mod, not drips mods, and it'll come in here. So unfortunately, when someone takes a pill, it doesn't tell you who took the pill. Apparently everyone takes the pill, I guess. I don't know. It seems odd to me that it doesn't give you the player. So let's get the player. So local player equals game. Remember, we defined this game all the way at the top as big game, open and close paren. Yeah, that's all the way at the top. Get player 0. So we're getting this first player. We've done this before. Usually we would cycle through the players, but we don't need to. Somebody took a pill, it's going to apply to the first player. If somehow there's a 2-player game, we're just going to have it be the first player until we know that this is an issue. So player. What's the first thing that you think of when you think of the Hulk? Sure, you probably think of big, but I think of green. So that's what we're going to make him. Set color, so we set the player's color to be Okay. Now this takes 5 parameters, and the first parameter takes 7 parameters. We're gonna have to put in 11 things just to set the color. Ah! Calm down. It's fine. The first parameter is color. C-O-L-O-R, capital C, color. Now this color comes in 7 parts. The first part is the red tint. The second part is the green tint. The third part is the blue tint, RGB. Tint is a multiplier. It's a color multiplier. So if we want to make our person green, how much red do we want? None. Okay? We want to make our player green, but not violently green. We want it to be hulkish green. So we don't want to give it 1. Just keep all the green. We want to dial it back a bit. So we're going to use 0.7 times the amount of green. Then how much blue do we want? None. Just green all day long. Okay. The next parameter is alpha. Alpha is the transparency. If we leave it at 0, we are completely invisible. Not predator shimmer invisible, completely invisible. It's not what we want. We'll just be a shadow on the ground. No good. 1.0. Complete visibility. The next 3 are offsets. Red offset, blue offset, red, green, blue. Red offset, green offset, blue offset. I haven't tested around with these a bit, but I believe they're an absolute increase or decrease of a color, regardless of how much there was already. So if you had something that was, say, black and white and gray, it's hard to tint black. If it had no blue to begin with, it's very hard to make it blue. That's why you need to be able to offset it into the blue spectrum. But that's not what we need today. So 0.0, comma, 0.0, comma, 0.0. Brilliant! We have set the color. We are 7 of the 11 parameters down. Whew. Next up is duration. We're going to put 0. I know what you're thinking. Lyte. Doesn't 0 mean it goes away instantaneously? Normally you'd be correct. 0 is no time at all. It just doesn't stick. But in this case, I'm fairly certain it means forever. So if you gave it a number, it would have that number and then it would go away. Because you set it to be a certain color for a certain amount of time and then it goes away. But when you hit 0, it never actually reaches that time. Because it checks the next frame and it goes, oh, I'm not at 0 after that. I need to keep going, apparently. And it just keeps going forever. That's my justification for why I use 0 and why it never goes away. Whether or not that's the truth, it's anybody's guess. The next thing up is priority. I'm going to put a 0 here. I don't know if that's the highest or the lowest priority. I don't know if it overrides Bloody Lust yet. I haven't tested it thoroughly, so you can add a different priority and it should interact with other things that change your color. Bloody Lust or Taurus, for example. These next 2, I'm going to have to check the documentation real quick. So we're going to be adding a color to an enemy. Okay, so color, duration, priority, and then a boolean for fade out and a boolean for share. Well, it's fairly clear what fade out would do. So we're going to hit false. We do not want our color to fade. We want it to be there. And it never runs out of duration, so it's never going to trigger the fade out regardless. And then share likely shares it with your additional compadres. I don't know if it's familiars or a second player, but either way, I don't want it to share the greenness with everything. It's your greenness. Keep it to yourself. Okay, so that was 11 parameters. We've got them all in there. We have set the player's color. Other times when you have to deal with color, you just have this monstrosity of a color function, but it lets you do everything you need to do. Next up, we gotta change his size. It's not a Hulk if he's not big. But before you change something's size or change something that isn't evaluated all the time, you need to remember what it was. Granted, you could be like, oh, but I know how much I'm scaling it by. I'll just undo it. Well, that's all fine and good if you know your arithmetic is perfect. But anytime you're working with floating point type stuff, it's not perfect. There's a chance that it'll wobble back and forth, and eventually those wobbles could cause a problem. They're not going to in this case, but we need to be responsible citizens. So, we're gonna keep track of what it previously was. So we're gonna keep the former scale equals player dot sprite scale. This is the only way I've found of making your player bigger. There might be other ways. There is a size parameter, but I don't know what it does. It doesn't make them bigger, and it doesn't make them sound bigger. So I don't know what it does. But I know this parameter does actually change their size. Okay, so we've set a former scale in our pill object such that we can keep track of what we were before, such that when we need to undo this process, we can roll it back cleanly. Okay, so now player.sprite scale equals. And now we set it to what we want it to be. So what we're actually going to take is this former scale, just to make sure we set it properly, plus a vector of our scale that we set all the way up here. Here. This scale is what we're adding. Now, in theory, we could just make this a vector, which is probably a better idea. So let's make this a vector that is 1, 1. Because it is a two-dimensional scaling. You're making it bigger and wider. So we made this scale vector 1, 1. So now, instead of making a vector down here, that's silly, we can say I'm always angry dot scale. So we're taking their former scale and adding the new scale to it, like the scale bonus. So we have now made him bigger. Twice as big in most cases. Brilliant! So, well, now we need to know where he got angry. So you go, I'm always angry. You're going to get really good at typing this, by the way. Dot room. So we want to know where he got angry. Equals game get level. So we ask the game for a level. And the level is where you are. The basement, the cellar, that sort of thing. Which is sometimes called stage. I don't really get it, but that's what level is. And then we ask that level to get current room index. We don't need the room itself. We just need to know which room it is. And then each of these are functions, so we have to use colons and we have to use parentheses. Good, good, good. So now we know which room you became angry in. Now, he's also going to get stronger. So we need to make sure we evaluate the cache. And we need to make sure we evaluate the cache the right way. So we have player add cache flags. So we're going to add some cache flags to this. Cache flags of cache flag dot. So we add cache flags, cache flag dot, cache damage, because we're going to make him big and strong. And then we do it again. Copy and paste. But this time, instead of caching damage, we're caching range, because we need the tier height to be higher. We don't want it to look like number 1. We want it to look like he's actually firing it from his eyes. Okay, so we've changed his color. We made him big. We know what room it happened in. We have set the cache to say, ooh, we need to make him strong. We need to make it high. But before this happens, just in case, we're going to make him angry. Because we can't change the stats here. You have to change the stats when you evaluate the cache. So we're going to put in a little flag saying that we are, in fact, angry. Now, this is probably something we should initialize, because we never want to check whether or not something is true if we don't know anything about it. So let's put it in here. Is angry equals false, because you don't start off angry. Here, we set it to true, and then we add the cache flags. Now, when you take pills, it's already set to evaluate the cache afterwards. If there are no flags set, it won't do anything. But if you set these flags, it'll evaluate the cache. Bob's your uncle. That's not true of other places in your code. You'll see in a second, you sometimes need to manually evaluate this sort of stuff. So we're getting close to half an hour. We're almost done. Hopefully we're not going to make it to the 50-minute point this time. So we're up here. We're in the on cache area. We had the callback to evaluate the cache. It goes to on cache. Here's all of our stuff for the drips. We're just going to add the angry stuff right in here. If I'm always angry dot is angry, then, and every if has its end. So if they're angry, player dot damage equals player dot damage plus I'm always angry dot bonus damage. Brilliant. Damage, damage, damage. And that's all it takes to do the updating of the damage. Okay? And then under range is where we do the tier height. So if, sorry, bad habit from other languages putting in the parentheses. If I'm always angry dot is angry, then, and every if has its end, here player dot tier height equals player dot tier height minus I'm always angry dot bonus tier height. Now we use minus for a very particular reason. Up here we want the positive numbers to imply something good. And decreasing your tier height is good because it makes it higher. And you're like, what? Well, the coordinate reference for how high your tiers aren't from Isaac's feet. The coordinates are from the upper left corner, which is 0, 0. So if you want to go higher, you subtract from the coordinates. It's weird, but it's true. So, I'm always angry, is angry, tier height goes higher by being subtracted. Whew. It's a weird, 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 weird world. Okay, so we've added damage, we've added tier height. We've got all of the stuff that makes us angry. Only one thing left to do, right? Turn it off. Because if you don't turn it off, it's just going to keep going forever. Now, this last part is a lot of repetition from what we've already done, so I'm going to cut it and paste it from something I whipped up earlier. So you come into this on update area after we update our drips, update our anger, and here's a bit of code. A lot of it should seem relatively familiar. We're going to walk through it. I'm going to show you what every little bit does. We're just not going to type the whole thing out. So we check the room in which we are angry. If there is no such room, we're done. We don't need to do this. And so if this fails, we don't even check the right-hand side. But if there is in fact a room in which we became angry, and we ask the game to get the current room, if that's not the room we were angry in, we're not angry anymore. So we get the current room. If it's not the same as the room we got angry in, we're not angry anymore. Brilliant. So we go back to the player and we set the color back to normal. Normal is 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. Because we multiply Isaac by 1, no change. 1, no change, 1, no change. So the color doesn't change. Transparency doesn't change. The offsets are added to his color, so those need to be zeros. So these are multiplications, these are additions, this is the identity. All no change. And it's not a relative thing from our greenness, it's relative to Isaac's base color. Then we set the sprite scale to the former scale. Simple rollback. We say not angry anymore, and then we set the cache flags for damage and range. However, when we do this update in this particular callback, the evaluate cache has already happened for this frame, and it won't do it again just because we set add cache flags. We have to actively evaluate the player's items. So player evaluate items tells the game we need to reevaluate the cache. We need to figure out the stats all over again. No matter what else has happened, oh, didn't pick up an item? Don't care. Evaluate the cache anyway. Do it. Okay? And then, since we're not angry anymore, the room in which we are angry no longer exists. Poof, all gone. So with all of this together, we're no longer angry. So when we save it and we double check all of our various spellings, because any little bit of spelling errors goes a long way towards nothing working. Just quick little double check. You just run your eyes over it and be like, is anything missing a period? Is anything wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey? Probably good, probably good, probably good. Double check these. Looks good. Let's give it a try. So we're going to come over into Isaac. We're actually going to do it this time. We're going to turn off Lorem Ipsum. We're going to start the drips. And if you go back and it's not red, you can feel a little more confident. And then we start in with Isaac. And then we go in here. I'm always angry is there. And then we use it. Oh, wrong button. Q. Boom. We're big. Our shots are big. They're kind of high off the ground. When we come in here, we're small. And they're far, far lower. So much closer to the ground. Boom. Boom. Now, there are a couple of things that this is in fact missing. One that is quite problematic. One I've already covered. One, I'm just going to keep saying one. All right, one. So one, the devs need to work on. We need to be able to get the pill color accurately such we can just give this person our pill. Second, I need to find out why his voice is still so high. I have not found a property that actually makes his voice lower, like it's supposed to be, where you're this big and you go, whoa. Doesn't make any sense to have a tiny voice in this giant body. Other than that, it's pretty much spot on. I know he seems to be slower, but his speed isn't any different. You're just bigger, so you seem slower. One other thing to keep in mind, if you make the tier height too much higher than this, you will fire right over poops and pots and things, which could make it such that you can't clear rooms because you can't break the poops. So I haven't narrowed it down to the exact height, but at 50, right over the poops, which is why this seems a little bit low compared to my eyes. I kind of want it visually higher, but if you get it visually high enough, it goes right over the poops. That's just no good. But it gives you a nice amount of strength. It doesn't one-shot these guys, but it gives you enough that on the first floor, you're not going to have any real trouble at all for the room that you use it on. It makes you more willing to use it than the strength card, which is like, oh, I should really save that for a special occasion. This, it's like, oh, I might take some damage. Let's just destroy everything. So we just come into the boss room, turn it on, and destroy the widow. The reason I'm coming this far is to show you that it still works when you move down to the next floor. There is a small chance, I believe, that the boss room of this floor and the start room of the next floor might be able to have the same index. That's going to take more research. So as we develop, we'll learn more about how various mechanics work, and then we'll be able to foresee odd interactions. But that's all for this episode. I believe I have finished in less time than previous episodes, so I will see you in the next episode of the Modding of Isaac with Lyte.